Okay, so now what we want to do, after my handle that I previously created has dried enough that it is at a point being called leather hard. So here, I'll show you what that means. I can flip and I can turn this, and it's dry enough that it's going to hold that curved form. However, it's still soft enough that I can ever so slightly keep manipulating it, okay? So what I want to do at this point is I'm going to take my longer fettling knife, is what it's called, and I'm going to make one cut right there so it's nice and flat. And then I'm going to take my knife up here and I'm going to cut that. Okay. So what I would suggest is keep cutting a little bit off at a time. And this is pretty thick and bulky, and I don't personally like how that feels in my hand. And like, this is just way too big for my hand. And then you could put it like that. You could put the larger side up at the top. You could put it down at the bottom. It would just visually create a little more weight at the base. So, like I said, this particular handle is way too big for my hand. So I'm just going to keep cutting a little bit away at a time. So again, a little bit at a time, keep checking it until you get it the size that you want. You know, I think I'm going to go with having it be like that. And yeah, I kind of like how that is. So I'm going to go with that. And the next step, I'm going to turn it over like this. And I'm going to make sure that I get this lined up where I want. I'm going to gently hold it in place. Then I'm going to switch and use my straight blade knife. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just carefully, I'm just basically scratching that little outline all the way around so I can see where to score. Make my little cut marks. So you can probably barely see them. But I could use this again, this flexible metal tool, and make those score lines. I'm going to switch to using my curved blade down at the bottom, just because it's a smaller surface area and this is kind of too big and bulky, and I'll probably make a score line where I don't want it. Okay, so I'm going to set that down. I'm going to go over to my handle, and I'm going to switch to this tool. I'm going to make those cut marks right across, so they're score marks. So scoring is when you make the little cut marks in there, and adding the slip is the next step. So here's my container of slip. Slip again is just your watered down clay. Go ahead and load that up. I'm just kind of patting it on there. Load it up because, again, when you go to press that on there, apply enough pressure that that slip is going to ooze out of there. Now this is where people start to make a mistake when they attach the handles. They don't apply it with enough force, and then as it starts to dry, they'll notice, they'll come back the next day. Wow, I already got that on there pretty hard, but I wanted to show you, if you don't get it on there firm enough, as it dries, it's going to start separating from the mug. And then at that point, it's too late. You're out of luck. We can't fix it, okay? So I'm going to press that back on there really well. And you can see, like, when I push pieces together, I just kind of, like, gently wiggle the two from side to side to try to get that to fit together nice. Okay, now, this, again, looks really sloppy. We need to make that look more professional. So we're going to come back with a little bit of water on a paintbrush, and we're just going to rush that right out of there. Because we don't want that slip on there, okay? All right, finishing touches. Make sure it's all, oh, I got some little weird little spot right there. I'm going to brush that out of there. Smooth it out with my fingers. Okay. All right. So my mug is now complete. I've showed you all the steps. At this point, once I'm totally happy with how it looks, I'm going to let it start drying out. So then at that point, what you're going to do is you're going to take your tool and you're just going to carve your name into the bottom. I always use, that's my little fancy signature there for that I always put into clay. It's a little JD. Kind of looks like a little fish hook there. And then, as long as you take care of your pottery, this will last for quite a while, you guys. I mean, this will last for decades. And so I'm actually just going to go ahead and put the year in there. All right. So again, I would make sure that I'm totally, completely content with how this looks, because once it's dried, I do not want to do anything else to it, but let it completely dry and then bisque fire it. Okay? So double check, make sure it's exactly the way that you want it, and then just let it set out to dry.